Congratulations on the purchase of your new Evolution 10-inch 15-amp miter saw. I know this will be a great addition to your shop, and you'll get a lot of use out of it. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the entire process of setting up your new miter saw step by step. All of the other miter saws I have reviewed have come pre-assembled, so I was wondering why the Evolution requires assembly. I don't think they saved that much labor at the factory. I suspect it's because they wanted to reduce shipping cost with less packing materials and at the same time reduce the impact on the environment. I would say that there are somewhere between 25 and 30% less packing materials with this size box. At the same time, if you're picking this up at the store and you don't have a truck, this should fit in the trunk of your car. So if it saves me money and helps the environment at the same time, I'll take a few minutes to do the assembly. Besides, I enjoy doing it anyway. Anyhow, let's get started. The first thing we want to do is unpack everything and make sure we have all the parts. Always make sure you read, understand, and apply all the operational and safety instructions found in your manual. And these are the instructions for registering your product online, so make sure you do that as soon as possible. Your new table saw does not come with eye protection or hearing protection, so make sure you pick some up. It also comes with this chart that you can use for reference, but I'm going to go through all those parts with you. This part here with that little bolt is for cord management. This knob is used to hold the guide assembly in place. And this knob is for locking the bevel control down. And this little guy right here is for depth control. This is the dust control adapter for your shop vac. And your blade comes in this envelope. And of course your clamp. And these are the guide rails. Of course, this is the dust bag. And this is the miter saw itself. The box does not come with a Phillips head screwdriver, but you will need one later on in the assembly process. These are the two extensions. And this is the base itself. Now I want to point something out. You see these two bolts right here? Make sure you've got those. They were loose in the box that my unit came in. So a couple of them are loose. You've got two on the left and again two on the right hand side. So make sure before you throw the box out that you've got these four bolts. You also should have this knob on the right hand side. And these two knobs on the left hand side. And you can see the Allen wrench should be right here. Again, it might have come loose in shipping, so make sure you've got that Allen wrench. So these are all the parts you should have before you begin the assembly process. Let's go ahead and install the miter control knob. Now, I put a touch of oil on the threading there because I live in a very humid climate here in Central Texas, and it'll also make it easier to install. But let's go ahead and screw it all the way in. Make sure it's nice and tight. And make sure it doesn't wiggle at all. Loosen it just a little bit to test the positioning, and then tighten it back down. We want it nice and tight because we're going to need that when we put the guide mechanism in. Now let's assemble the guide mechanism. Now you notice these black points, we want to make sure they're both sticking out. If for some reason they're not, these little pins need to be pushed in to allow that to pop back out. You're also going to notice there's just a slight film of oil on here, and you want to make sure that you don't wipe that off, because that allows the mechanism to slide in and out on the assembly at the back end of your miter saw. Next, we want to take this knob, and again I put a little bit of oil on this as well, and there should be a little spring right there. And we're going to put that right here to lock down the guide assembly mechanism. We want to make sure this is nice and tight, because as you'll see in a moment, we're going to push against this. So make sure it's nice and tight. Next, we want to attach the saw to the guide assembly itself. So all you want to do is line up these two holes and slide them over those two bars. And once you pushed it into the correct position, you're going to hear a little snap as those two green pins pop into the proper place, which I'm going to show you in just a moment. So I'll make sure this is nice and tight and there's no wiggling at all in the assembly. To verify that the saw is attached to the assembly correctly, all you have to do is check and make sure these two pins, the one on the right and the left-hand side, are set correctly in there. And again, make sure this assembly is not wiggling or loose at all. Now that we have the miter saw itself attached, we want to go ahead and attach the cord management system. So I've already taken this and applied it to the cord, and there's a little stub sticking out. You'll notice that I just placed it on. And then all you're going to do is take that little bolt that I showed you earlier and your Allen wrench and tighten it down right here. And you want to make sure you do this with the saw head in the upright position so you have the right amount of slack in the cord. Installing the depth control knob is a very simple process. And you'll notice, like everything else with threads, I put a touch of oil on it first. So just go ahead and place it in the receiver and just go ahead and tighten it down. Now let's go ahead and install the blade. You'll notice that I'm turning this bolt counterclockwise to take it off. So lefty-loosey and righty-tighty are just the opposite when you're installing this saw blade. And you'll notice with this flange how I took it off. Make sure you put it back on the same way. You do not have to remove this inner adapter or flange, but I wanted to take it off and show it to you anyway. It's installed to adapt for the multi-material blade that comes with the saw. The other side is for your standard 5/8 inch blades that you can buy at the store. Now let's install the blade and make sure the labeling or the writing is on the outside. Lift up the blade guard. Slide that in nice and easy. And get it up on the post. And then holding it with one hand, go ahead and put the flange back on. Now remember, this bolt has got to go counterclockwise to tighten down. So you notice I'm going counterclockwise. And once you get it to a certain point, you want to use the blade locking mechanism on the right-hand side to keep the blade from turning. And then you take your Allen wrench and go ahead and tighten it down the rest of the way, nice and tight. Okay? But it doesn't have to be so tight that it's impossible to take off later on. Then remember that Phillips screwdriver that I showed you earlier? You're going to take your little Phillips screwdriver, take this blade guard, pull it down into position, and then tighten it down. So that is the blade assembly. Of course, the dust bag just simply clips on, but you want to make sure the zipper on the dust bag is closed before you do so. If you're going to be using a dust control system, you want to make sure you apply the dust control adapter. Now I've taken the 4 bolts out of the base and put them into the extensions just like you see here. Then all you need to do is set it down on the base and tighten it down with the Allen wrench. And finally, you want to put the clamp into place. So you notice there's 2, I'm going to call them slots on this post. You want to go ahead and set it down into the clamp hole. Loosen that little knob right there. And then tighten it down on the slot that's going to give you the correct height for what you're trying to do. This clamp is unique compared to all the others that I've evaluated or reviewed in that it has this quick release function which allows you to move it up and down very rapidly and then just tighten it down the rest of the way with the knob. This video is part 1 of 2 videos on this miter saw. In part 2, I will be doing an in-depth review of the Rage 3 miter saw, which will be uploaded shortly. Also, be sure to check out my other miter saw reviews in the playlist found in the description. Well, I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please press like and share with your friends. If you're not already a subscriber, I would love to have you as a subscriber. And as always, good luck on your projects.